In today's video, I'm going to go over the subwoofer that I installed in my 2024 Ford Ranger. I replaced the B&O subwoofer, so I had the B&O 10 speaker system, and this is the subwoofer that came with it. So it's a 5 1/4 inch sub, pretty decent sized magnet with dual voice coils. But what I put in instead is the kicker powered 8-inch hideaway. So it's a 150 watt integrated amplifier into a aluminum sealed enclosure with the 8-inch kicker sub. All you gotta do is run a power wire up to the battery, and then I ran the speaker wires that were going to the old sub right into this, and it's just set to the high level input. So I ran the power wire back behind the amplifier, and then I just tucked it underneath this trim all the way up here, and then I went through the firewall with the rest of the vehicle's wiring harness, and then it comes out in the engine bay up by the brake master cylinder with the rest of the wiring harness. I zip tied it to a couple things underneath the fuse box and tied it into power there. That's really all there was to it. I make it sound really easy. I spent 3 hours trying to get that wire through the firewall yesterday, but I was using the wrong tools. So with the right tools, you could have this whole thing wired up and done in hour and a half. It's not bad to do the work yourself, and it is absolutely worth it. The sound quality is phenomenal on this compared to the old one. I found some copyright-free music. So this song. With today's specific video in mind, I went out and bought the DJI Mic 2 kit. So it's a wireless transmitter that can go 250 meters, and you plug this into the bottom of your phone or whatever device you're using, and this is your new mic. So it's got the little windscreen on it. It does a really good job. There's a second mic in case you wanted to have one in the back, one in the front, or if you're doing like interviews and someone else is gonna wear it. The sound quality is phenomenal. The first one I bought was like a $19 Bluetooth mic off Amazon, and it would have a lot of static, a lot of issues. DJI makes a lot of great equipment. So I got this thing and I'm loving it so far. We'll see if it actually got some good footage of the stereo. I am back at it this morning. So I came out here yesterday. I took this bracket right here. So this is just for a car seat. If you're gonna have the car seat and then you have a hook over the back, you can hook it to this thing. That's the anchor point. So it's not for anything else. But I took this out, scraped up the paint just to get down to bare metal, and put the ground wire on there. I didn't have a little ring on it or anything. I just wrapped the wire around the bolt and put it back in there. So I'm going to find a bolt. So anytime you have extra bolts, you should always save all of them. So I'm gonna look through here and find something that looks like it might thread into that. So it's the right size and the thread pattern is right. So I am going to use this as my ground, and then I'm going to fix the super poor quality wiring work that I did yesterday. There is zero play in that, so that is a good solid connection. I'm happy with that. I'm just gonna scrape the paint, just get down to bare metal here. And I'll hand tighten it just to make sure it's good. When I was in college, I used to do this with my teeth, be in the systems lab. Instead of using wire strippers, I'd use my teeth, which is probably terrible, not my smartest move. Just gonna speed through this. All I'm doing here is stripping all the wires, getting them ready to put in those little connectors and crimp them down so I can keep moving forward. And I found the easiest way to do this is put the connector in your crimper, just hold it nice and loose so that as soon as you get the wires in there, you're ready to go. There we go. Nice and tight. Pull. Those are good. On these two sets of wires, you have gray and white, and then the gray has a black line on one and then just gray on the other. The white has a black line on one, and then it's just white all around. On the wiring harness, you have a black and a green for one of the voice coils and a purple and a yellow for the other. The black and the purple are the negatives, I think. Even if they're the positives, as long as they're the same, we're good to go here, and we can always do the phase shift if we have to. But I had it wired up this way yesterday, where I had the black and the purple to the ones with the black lines, and then the yellow and the green to the ones without the black lines, and it worked. So that's what I'm going to stick with today and get this thing going. One thing to remember when you're doing wiring, you can always cut it back and do it again. If you mess something up, if you get a bad crimp, if you stick it in there and half the wires get splayed back, you can fix that. So when you are getting yourself ready, leave plenty of wire to make a few mistakes, and then worst case, you get it all, well, worst case. Best case, you get it in the first try and you just have a little bit extra wire. Worst case, you give yourself a chance to fix whatever you mess up without having to try to splice in new wire, or somehow, like if you cut it here and expect to just do it once and then you screw it up, then you're buying a whole new connector. So this is good. I'm gonna grab my lighter and get those heat shrinks down. Okay, back. I know this is a truck video, but I love Zippo lighters. Just the iconic sound, but then they made inserts for butane inside of these. So I mean, you can have the cool old lighter look and then a butane. So they make a single and a double. This is the double. I have another one that has a single in it, but it's just so cool. I have a DuPont lighter that within a month started leaking. So you buy a several $100 lighter and it's just garbage, or you can get any Zippo and buy this little butane insert. Come on, heat shrink, do your thing. Sure smells bad. Maybe I should have just got the heat gun, whatever. Too late now, I'm committed. Less impressive than I thought. I might still put a little tape over that. I haven't used these type of connectors before. Usually I'll put a connector on, then slide the heat shrink over, and you get heat shrink that's just a little bit bigger than what you have. So not ideal, but nothing a little bit of electrical tape can't fix. If I could only have 5 tools in my toolbox, it would be duct tape, electrical tape, vice grips, a knife, and WD-40. If you wanted to get a bigger one, a bigger speaker, they make a 10, and I think it would go up to here. It may fit. You'd have to measure it. I mean, if you guys are really interested, I can measure it, but this fits so well right here that any bigger this way and it's going to start sticking out a little bit. You could cut this, but this keeps it as factory as possible, and I think it looks really good. So I guess for now, while I think about this, I'm going to go up and fix the wiring in the engine bay. Put some better connectors on those and get the connection to the battery all fixed up. So we'll go up and do that now. All right. So this is the crap job I did yesterday. I mean, the wire's just loose in here. So I'm going to disconnect the little ties that I put on here yesterday, because I'm going to reroute this entire power wire once I figure out where I want it. So while we work on this, I'm going to pull the fuse out just like I did yesterday, because the last thing we want is to fry anything because we did something stupid, or a wire touched something it shouldn't have touched. That is a solid connection right there. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I put this thing on this wire instead of this wire. That's why you always leave a little bit of extra, because there's a very good chance you're going to do something stupid. So let me try this again. I could edit that out, but I think making dumb mistakes just shows that anytime you think you're going to get a project done in, 30 minutes, it's going to take you 2 hours. My rule of thumb is it's always going to take twice as long and cost twice as much as you thought. And a lot of times, even that is conservative. I found that more often than not, it takes 4 or 5 times longer and cost 3 or 4 times as much, especially when you make a lot of dumb mistakes, which I am known to do. As long as you only make the mistake once, it's not too bad. If you do the same thing twice and didn't learn from it, then you have bigger issues. It freaks me out when I'm working on electrical stuff, and then this car, it's constantly opening and closing little things, doing stuff. So when I'm in here and I have a wire in my hand and all of a sudden I hear a solenoid go, I'm just, you know, oh shoot, what did I do? Did something touch something that shouldn't have? Or I don't know, that's just me. I'm gonna move some of this stuff before it blows away. So if you hear crackling or anything on this mic, it's because it's super windy, and I could not be happier with how well this new DJI mic performs. It's so much better than the cheap little $19 one I bought on Amazon. Granted, I paid a whole lot more for this, but the system is great. You can tie it in directly to a lot of different cameras. Said I could hook it up to my GoPro as well if I wanted to. So a whole lot of options with that. Man, this is a tight one. So I'm taking my YouTube stuff way more seriously than I probably should, seeing as how I don't make any money on it yet. I would like to, but I'm not holding my breath. Ah, it did it again. I'm telling you. All these little motors activating when I drop a wire freak me out. I want to get the routing right before I hook it up, and then I will go back and secure everything. All right, good solid connection. Grab a couple zip ties. Anytime I'm securing a wire under the hood, I make sure what I'm connecting it to doesn't get hot. Generally, I just try to find another wire bundle and zip tie my wire to that, because you know it's going to be safe. So a very useful skill to have when you're doing this is the ability to place and lock a zip tie with one hand. So I have an extra small loop of wire in here, but it's not in anything's way. I'm going to leave it just in case I need a little bit more up here for anything in the future. I also have a small loop on the inside down by the driver's footwell that I'm going to put a little coil in and put underneath the carpet as well. But for now, we are done here, so I'm going to put the fuse back in. Okay, so I'm happy with my wiring now. So I tied in to this terminal here. It's just an 8mm. The small little O-ring thing fit on there very well. And then I went down here, I zip tied the wire right there so it goes down with all the other wires. Fits in there really well. And then I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit so I can show you. So I went down there, you can see it. I just zip tied it along underneath, so that's the fuse box. Zip tied it to the big bundles underneath the fuse box. Go up, see if there's a better way. Can't really see it, but it's down in here underneath the master cylinder for the brakes. And then that little loop right there is out of the way. I could have pulled it through, but I think I'm just going to leave that small extra loop just in case I need a little bit of extra wire in the future. So we're in the final stretch. We got to make everything look nice. So again, up here in this little footwell area is where the wires come into the vehicle. Now that everything's set, I'm just trying to hide the wire. I just stick it in between the carpet and the plastic and go from there. So it's really tight in this corner right here, and the light is not making this easy, but I'm pulling this whole piece of trim up so I can get the wire under there. And then once I have it in, I always pull both sides to make sure it's moving so it's not pinched. All right. So now we're just going to keep doing that all the way back. So this is that extra little loop. We're going to get that all the way back to the back and then, you know, coil everything up nicely over here before we plug it all back in. So just remember, this is all just plastic. It's bendable. I mean, you don't want to snap anything, but you can definitely use a little bit of force to make this all fit where it needs to. So don't be afraid. And if you do pop the clips, it makes it even easier, and you just snap it back in. So not a difficult thing. So I managed to get it inside, under here, all the way up, and then just gonna get this cleaned up, and then it comes out back through there. And then under here, I don't mind it just being loose, so nothing else goes there. So that's it. Now it comes out through that corner. Oh my gosh. And then, oh my God, it's so windy. So this comes out of the amp. This is what plugged into when the subwoofer was in here. This is the wiring harness I cut off of the subwoofer box, and then I crimped the wires onto the signal wires to the new amplifier. So now all I have to do is plug this connector back together. And now my signal wires are all connected. Once I get it plugged in, I want to coil it up and kind of zip tie it. Keep it nice and clean, out of the way. I mean, I have a lot of extra for everything. But like I said before, it's better to have a little more than you need than not enough. So, come on, clip. There we go, so that's in there. We got the light on, good to go. What I'm gonna do is all of these wires, I want them to go. Man, the door keeps slamming on my legs and it sucks. All right, so these wires all right down here. And this ponytail kind of goes back. It's not gonna get pinched or anything when the seat goes back. I checked that because I had a little bit of concern about that. Okay, so these, actually I'm gonna give myself a little more of the power wire so it can be tucked under here. So that actually looks pretty good, I think. Wires go down there. They're underneath the seatbelt thing. And obviously this is still loose in here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the seat back and see if it rattles around or if I'm in good shape. I think it's gonna hold it into place because left and right, it's up against this little cutout here and that over there. Once the seat's back, it's gonna hold it here. It's not gonna go anywhere. So I think we'll be good. And I'll still think about it. I mean, the jack actually fit back in there. It's a little bit at an angle, but it holds the bottom of the subwoofer in really, really well. So when you put the jack back in, put a towel or something in between it here so it doesn't scratch it and it doesn't rattle. What I want to do now is tune it a little bit. So I'm going to hook my phone up to the car, get a little bit of music playing with a little bit of bass, mess with the settings, and then I'll come back and actually get a video of it. See if I can get any decent audio with the subwoofer playing for you. So I just realized while I'm doing all this stuff, I knew this came with floor mats. It comes with Raptor floor mats, so that's pretty awesome. So the way I have it wired, the way I showed you my wiring, I have the switches in, so DC, input level is high because this is actually speaker wires, and then phase is 0. I switched it back and forth. I couldn't tell the difference between the two. I did not hook in that remote bass thing, the little knob that you can turn it up. I might do that later, just so I can turn it up and down without having to go into the settings. But for now, I just wanted to be done with it. Bass boost level just at like the, but there's 6 of those, so that's on the number 2. And then gain is also on the number 2. If you go too high on that, it gets crazy. As far as the crossover, this is an 8 in a sealed enclosure, so you can have the crossover pretty high. You can get up to like the 100, 120 hertz with this, and it still sounds good. So if you go down to like 50, it's only gonna play 50 and below. So to me, I wanted it to go all the way up to 100, maybe 120. I'll mess with that a little more, but for now, these settings are really good. They sound great. I'm gonna put the seat back up, and then close all the doors and play a little bit of music. is just awesome. I don't know how useful any of this video is going to be, but there you go. So every time I see an old Ford Ranger as I'm driving around, this is what goes through my head.
Little Bartle! That little guy! He's got the heart of a champion! You're gonna make it, little Bartle! You just keep scraping along! Oh, little Bartle! I don't know what I'm doing with my life!
It's over!